Hi, I'm Simon Rushton and this is Taxi Chronicles Podcast. On this podcast, we spontaneously interview unsuspecting passengers with their permission, allowing them to share their intimate life stories and concerns. As our slogan states, real riders, real stories. Some riders prefer to be anonymous, while others ask me to tell their story later on. Either way, there are all genuine 5 to 10 minutes stories, so sit back and enjoy this episode. Morning. Yes, we're back with another episode, another rider. We've got a lovely young lady here, all the way from Lebanon. She's been telling me all about her experiences in Lebanon. She's only been here 2 years, and she's going to just give us an insight on what it's like from a young lady's point of view, living in Lebanon in comparison to here. So, welcome to have you here today, Sally.
Hey.
But if you tell us about what it was like living in Lebanon and in comparison to living in London.
Yeah, so just in terms of being a woman living in Lebanon, I would say that the main difference between there and here is that or maybe not just a woman, like you can be any gender effectively, but like your value is really based on where you're from, what family you come from, how much money you have, like your socioeconomic status. Whilst here, I would say that there is that sort of similarity between the UK and Lebanon, but the difference is that here that the law kind of protects you and you do have general rights where you can progress, whilst back home you could easily just lose your value based on your gender or your socioeconomic status, and you wouldn't have that sort of capacity to progress the way that you want to. You wouldn't even be able to get to the point of having an opinion depending on the level of education that you're allowed to have. So for example, here you are legally supposed to be in school for a certain amount of time up until like you're 16, whilst back home like people are dragged out at 14. So if I'm 13, 14 years old and I'm married off to somebody who's 20 years my senior, I'm not exactly gonna have 20 years, man. 20 years.
What kind of dad is gonna do that? You're gonna pimp your daughter to a trend?
Man, I had me some grooms come up in that house.
Think about it. That's like your dad saying to his friend, "You want my daughter?"
Effectively, yeah. And there are, I mean, it really depends on that, on how it really depends on how savvy you are as a kid, because you know at the end of the day, like here at 18 you get to leave the house and you get to be on your own and you're legally your own person, whilst back home that's not the case at all, because you don't even have that option to, let's say, get a minimum wage job or be able to, whilst life would be difficult, you would have that opportunity. Back home it's like you either go by what they say or not at all.
So tell me, what's the limitations, right? What's the limitations in education for like a lady?
So it's not about just being a lady, but I would say that the public, so like here you have access to the public school system and you get to learn up until you're 18 for free. So your parents have time to save up for college, or you have at least access to public school. Or like if an officer saw you being very young working when you're supposed to be at school, they're gonna call your parents out on it. Whilst back home, if your parents don't have money, then it's more encouraged for you to leave school at a younger age so you could start working. So and like the majority, I would say you have about 40% on education, lack of education, where people drop out at 14. Men leave school at a very young age so they could start, I don't know, a restaurant or like work at a cell phone shop or work at a garage or something like that. And then women drop out so they could marry their teachers or something like that. Oh yeah.
Marry your teacher?
Oh yeah. I know a couple of girls who married their like bio teachers, and they're like the teacher's like 40 and the girl's like 16.
So wait a minute. What do the parents say about that?
It's encouraged because again, like your value is based on your husband as a woman. Like you're not really your own person. It is very much like the second sex by Simone de Beauvoir. Like it's very much alive.
Okay, so
I'm not judging. I'm just. It sounds like
judge away.
It's no, because it's not. Cultures are different. But it just sounds like a big pimping network.
Effectively, I mean,
that you're using your own. It's like selling your children crack or your sister crack. You wouldn't do it.
I mean, it's literally. I mean, there are a lot of men who get paid, but like the dowry system is still very much alive. Like you do literally have a value, where like it's how much do you want to pay for my daughter?
Oh, so the dad benefits. So the dad's always trying to have lots of children then.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't want to paint it like it's this like horrible, just like backwards community, but it's really, really problematic. It just.
So what was the positive things about your Lebanon that you experienced?
Okay. So first of all, let me just put out a quick advertisement that like Beirut's the best party hub in the Middle East. Like if you had to visit the Middle East and you want to have a good time and you want to do it on a budget, Beirut's the place to go. Great nightlife. I'm gonna say it's like arguably better than UK nightlife. The people are super friendly, but I would recommend that if you visit, that make sure to get a local, because you will get ripped off, especially if you're white. No offense, but if you're looking blonde and blue eyes, then like people are gonna charge you extra for things. So there's that. There is a huge family feel. Like I do love the family values back home. I really like the fact that it's so embedded in the culture to the point where like, yes, it has a negative side to it, but I also think that, you know, I think that maybe sort of like in westernized cultures, people are very prone to being away from their family, or like you have that sort of conditional love at a time, or like after the kid's 18, like you're literally on your own, like that's it. I mean, more often, like I have a friend from Dublin who told me that like he pays his parents' rent. And it's like, wow, it's like, I would never experience that. Like, if I had to go back to my parents' house, like, I would never be left out on my ass. You know what I mean? Like, ever. I could always go back home. I have that sort of security blanket. So I think that that's really important.
Maybe he pays his parents' rent. It's his parents' way of teaching him responsibility.
Well, yeah.
Do you see what I mean? Not because they necessarily need the money, but they're saying, well, if you're going to be here and you're a man, well, you should pay. You know what I mean? Now,
yeah.
As a father, I'm thinking, would I charge my daughter rent if she wants to live with me? No, but I may say the electricity bill is your responsibility.
Yeah, but like, why not just have your kid just like have a flat share or something and then pay rent like, you know what I mean? Like, why not just be able to go back to your childhood bedroom, just to be able to go back there? And then like, if you want to teach them responsibility, why does it got to be under your roof? You know what I mean?
Oh, so they should just come back there, stay there.
I mean, it's
just guide them in life.
I mean, it's one thing to contribute to the household, where like if you're out and you're like getting a job and you're working and you're a productive member of society, but like you need to save up money, because at the end of the day, I'm so sorry, but like today, like in terms of rent, housing, all of that, it's not the same as like 20 years ago or 30 years ago. Before, like, you know, like a few decades ago, you could buy a house for like 200,000, like you could take out a mortgage and like have a stable job and be able to keep that for a while and pay off your home, whilst today like you can barely get a shoebox for $500,000 in London, you know? So I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you. We're coming to the end of the journey here. It's been great talking to you.
You too.
My last question is, what's the impact you want to have on the world? And just to throw in a little curveball, if you could change anything in Lebanon, what would you change?
Okay, so the impact that I would personally have on the world. So first of all, I'm studying to be a criminal defense solicitor. So my impact on the world would be to like enter public policy making and sort of just even out the socioeconomic disparity amongst people. I feel like politicians don't work based on what's just or what would actually help people, but what would actually like further their political gain, like their personal financial gain, and how much power and influence that they would have. And it would have nothing to do with what is good for society, rather how much like what's the bottom line. And I really think that government was established in order to help people, and I think that right now it's about the bottom line. So hopefully the new generation can move past that. one. And two, if there's one thing that I would have to change in Lebanon, it would be I would wipe out the government as is, and I would put back the millennials, the Gen Zs, everybody who's ready for change, in order to have, like, establish equality in the country, give people a chance, allocate the budget in order to improve people's standards of living, as opposed to just line in the pockets of the politicians. So that.
Okay, thanks a lot
Thanks.
for that. That was very interesting.
Yeah.
We hope you liked that episode. Keeping in mind, we never know who we're going to interview. We post twice a day, 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. GMT. Have you ever considered the future economies to invest in? Why not listen to our sister podcast, Africa Investor Stories? Considering Africa has the fastest growing economies and population on Earth, and has done for many years, it holds 30% of the world's known natural resources. We publish twice a week, Tuesday with a guest investor, and Fridays talking about investment, politics and history, providing a clear understanding for any potential investor.